When people talk about The Mentalist, most of the focus naturally lands on Patrick Jane. He's flashy, unpredictable, and magnetic. But honestly, the show doesn't work without Teresa Lisbon. She's the balance point, the grounding force that lets Jane's chaos even function in a believable way. Lisbon is order to his chaos, conscience to his revenge, and compassion to his manipulation. She's also one of the most psychologically layered characters in the show. Someone shaped by a brutal past, carrying silent scars, but still choosing to serve, protect, and believe in people. In this video, I want to break down who she really is, what drives her, how she works as Jane's foil, and why her arc is one of the most underrated in The Mentalist. By the way, guys, we made a Discord server for all Mentalist fans. It's pretty bare bones right now, but we will be adding more fun stuff to it. If you want to join, feel free to do so, and we'll discuss episodes, cases, characters, and everything else. Check it in the first link in the description below. Teresas Psychology makes way more sense when you look at where she came from. Her childhood wasn't just tough, it was survival training. Losing her mother at 12, dealing with an abusive, alcoholic father, and being forced to step into the role of parent for her brothers explains why she became so rigid, disciplined, and protective as an adult. She had no choice but to grow up early, and that left a mark. What strikes me about her is how much of her adult identity is built on responsibility. She didn't really get the luxury of being carefree or reckless, so she carries that weight everywhere, even as a boss at the CBI. You can see it in the way she keeps her team in line, in how she tries to be a shield between Jane and the bureaucracy above them. She's tough because she had to be. But what's fascinating is that beneath that toughness, there's still a glimpse of the kid who probably just wanted stability, love, and a safe home. Every time she clashes with Jane or takes care of her brothers in later episodes, I feel like that's Teresa revisiting that childhood role, still being the one who has to hold everything together, even if it breaks her. If there's one defining trait for Teresa, it's responsibility. She doesn't just take it on, she absorbs it like it's part of her DNA. And the thing about responsibility is that it doesn't come free. It's heavy. You can see the toll it takes on her across the series. Whether it's cleaning up after Jane's reckless schemes, or trying to keep her brothers from imploding, she always ends up being the one who has to hold the line. I think that comes from her childhood, where stepping up was the only option. But what's interesting is how it shaped her psychology as an adult. She's the type who would rather sacrifice her own happiness than let someone else down. That's why she rarely lets herself be vulnerable, because in her mind, if she crumbles, everyone else falls with her. But there's a bittersweetness to it too. Responsibility gives her strength, yes, but it also isolates her. She can't just let go the way Jane does, and that makes their dynamic so compelling. She is the weight bearer, the one who keeps the ship from sinking, even if it means she never truly gets to relax or live for herself. Lisbon has always struck me as the moral backbone of The Mentalist. She's not flashy like Jane, she doesn't play mind games, but she represents something far more important, the belief that justice has to come through the right channels. That nickname she got early in her career, Saint Teresa, says it all. She's the one who actually believes in the system, even when it fails. Her whole philosophy is built on the idea that rules exist for a reason, that procedure matters, and that you can't just let emotion dictate every decision. It makes sense if you think about her past, because she grew up in chaos, with no reliable structure, so as an adult she clings to order. That's why she struggles so much with Jane. He bends the rules, manipulates, and sometimes flat out breaks the law, and yet she defends him more than anyone else. I don't think it's because she approves of what he does. It's because she sees the pain driving him, and deep down, she wants to believe she can guide him back toward the right side of the line. Teresa's morality isn't rigid, it's compassionate. She knows the world is messy, but she still fights to keep justice from being twisted into personal revenge. Without that anchor, Jane's story would have gone completely off the rails. What fascinates me about her is how much of her identity is built around control. Not in the sense of being power hungry, but in the sense of survival. Her childhood forced her to live in chaos, and when you live through that, you either drown in it or you build armor to keep yourself steady. Lisbon chose the latter. You can see it in her personality as an adult. Rules, discipline, professionalism, a tough exterior. That's her shield. She doesn't allow herself to fall apart, because to her, falling apart means everyone else around her suffers too. But that armor is more than just a coping mechanism, it's also a prison. Lisbon rarely lets people in. She doesn't share her feelings easily, she doesn't like being vulnerable, and she doesn't ask for help. Think about her dynamic with Jane. Half the time, she's furious at him for undermining her authority, yet she still relies on him. Why? Because Jane does the one thing Lisbon can't. He breaks control. He disrupts the rules, forces people to reveal what they're hiding, and sometimes even forces Lisbon to confront her own emotions. And while she'd never admit it out loud, I think part of her needs that. There's a moment in the series when she talks about having to be the parent for her brothers after their mother died. That line tells you everything. She's been carrying responsibility for so long, that control became her identity. But the truth is, control isn't the same as freedom. Lisbon doesn't really live for herself until much later in the series. Until then, she hides behind the armor, because if she drops it, she risks exposing not only her vulnerability, but also the fear that maybe, deep down, she doesn't know who she is without the weight. For all her strength and discipline, Lisbon is not unshakable, and that's what makes her compelling. The cracks in her armor show up in small, fleeting moments. You see it when she reconnects with her brothers, when she lowers her guard and admits she hasn't been home since her father's death. You see it when she apologizes to her ex-fiancé, Greg Tabak, for how she left him, revealing that beneath her tough exterior is someone who avoids vulnerability by running. These moments matter because they remind us that Lisbon isn't a statue of authority. She's a woman who's been quietly hurt and who still carries that hurt into adulthood. One of the most telling examples is her relationship with Marcus Pike in Season 6. On paper, Pike is everything Lisbon deserves. Kind, stable, respectful, and yet the relationship feels hollow. She tries to commit, even accepts his proposal, but you can see the hesitation. It's not just about Jane, it's about her own fear of letting herself fully need someone. To accept love would mean exposing her softer side, admitting she can't do it all alone. That's terrifying for someone who spent her whole life holding the line. What I love is that Lisbon's cracks don't make her weaker, they make her human. Her strength doesn't come from being flawless. It comes from being someone who feels doubt, pain, even loneliness, but still shows up every day to fight for others. That quiet resilience is her truest form of power. What makes Lisbon fascinating isn't just who she is on her own, it's who she becomes in contrast to Jane. Their entire relationship is a study in tension, order and chaos, law and instinct, morality and vengeance. Lisbon lives by rules, Jane thrives by breaking them. Yet instead of canceling each other out, they create this strange balance that drives the whole show. Jane constantly undermines her authority, walking into crime scenes like the rules don't exist. Any other boss would have shut him down long ago, but she doesn't. She scolds him, yes, but she also protects him from the consequences. Because she sees more than the arrogance, she sees the grief that fuels him. And Jane, for all his disregard for rules, respects her more than he admits. He needs her to tether him, to stop him from going too far in his obsession with Red John. Their psychology is almost like a dance. Jane pushes, Lisbon pulls. Jane tests boundaries, Lisbon reinforces them. But here's the key, she never fully stops him. Deep down, she knows his methods work, even if they clash with her values. And Jane, in his own way, relies on her as the only person who can call him out, the only one he truly listens to. It's not just a professional partnership, it's symbiotic. Without Lisbon, Jane would self-destruct. Without Jane, Lisbon might never confront the parts of herself she keeps buried. Together, they're the show's most complex paradox. Opposites that can't function without each other. Her relationship with Jane is where her psychology really comes full circle. For years, she hides her feelings behind professionalism, always the boss, always the protector. But her devotion to Jane goes far beyond duty. She risks her life for him, covers for his reckless moves, and absorbs the consequences of his obsession with Red John. That's not just loyalty, that's love, even if she refuses to say it out loud. And honestly, it's complicated love. Jane can be manipulative, self-centered, even destructive, yet Lisbon stays. Some of that comes from her lifelong pattern of putting others before herself, but some of it is because Jane sees her in a way no one else does. What makes Lisbon interesting is that beneath her armor, she's deeply romantic. She keeps Jane's letters when he disappears, she rereads them, she treasures small tokens like the seashell on her desk. That's the part of her she rarely lets out, the part that wants to be chosen, loved, and understood. It's why her relationship with Marcus Pike never truly worked. Pike offered stability, but Jane was the one she couldn't let go of, even if he drove her crazy. When Jane finally admits his love, Lisbon allows herself to step into something new. A relationship where she's not just the caretaker or the shield, but also someone who can be cared for. Their marriage in White Orchids is more than just a happy ending, it's a culmination of Lisbon finally finding balance. She doesn't lose her strength or independence, but for the first time, she also gets to embrace vulnerability and joy without running from it. When I look back at The Mentalist, it's easy to say the show is about Patrick Jane, but I'd argue it's just as much about Teresa Lisbon. She doesn't have the theatrics, the genius tricks, or the obsession that defines Jane, but she is the one who makes the story possible. Without Lisbon, Jane either self-destructs or crosses a line he can't come back from. She's the balance that gives weight to everything he does. And beyond that, she's the proof that strength doesn't have to be loud to matter. Teresa's legacy isn't in the cases she solved or even in marrying Jane, it's in how she embodies resilience. She took a brutal childhood, an impossible career, and years of standing in someone else's storm, and still came out whole. Not untouched, not without scars, but whole. She represents responsibility without bitterness, morality without rigidity, and love without losing herself. To me, she's one of the most underrated characters in TV because she shows us that quiet strength often lasts longer than chaos ever could. And that would be it for this video. Note that this is only my opinion and my insight. I'd love to hear your opinion about Teresa, and tell me which characters you want me to dissect next. Reminder that the link to the Discord server is in the description below. I hope to see all of you there, and until next video, goodbye.